The weapon ports on a dead ship do not cycle from cold to active. This is a fact Skelver had relied upon for 2 years. Then the Dauntless lit up. Bow to stern, one section at a time, like vertebrae in a spine coming back to life. Skelver watched from the observation deck of the Coalition outpost Varek, his secondary respiratory system opening on his chest cavity as primary breathing accelerated past efficiency. He adjusted his respirator mask. The station's recycled air, he told himself. Nothing more. The manifest lists 1 emergency shuttle, said his adjunct, reading from a screen that suddenly seemed too bright. Classified as non-functional. Skelver had filed that report himself 18 months ago. He remembered the shuttle's registration number because he'd had to enter it 3 times after the system rejected his first 2 attempts. Non-functional emergency hardware. A footnote in a footnote. 1 derelict, Skelver said, and his voice carried the professional dismissal that had kept him sane through 2 years of derelict watch. 1 biological anomaly. No tactical significance. Across the void, the Dauntless continued its sequence. Deck 14, Deck 12, Deck 9. Each light a small insult to everything Skelver understood about dead machinery. A biometric lock disengaged on the Dauntless' primary airlock. Skelver's dermal plates contracted involuntarily, a physical response his conscious mind could not override. His species biology registering threat-level impossibility before his training could intervene. Something's crossing, the adjunct whispered. Skelver magnified the visual. A human figure in a mechanic's jumpsuit, moving through hard vacuum without escort, without tether, without any of the safety protocols that Coalition doctrine demanded. The figure's hands trembled as they reached for the Dauntless' exterior hatch. Motor irregularities, Skelver noted, logging the observation with the clinical detachment that had earned him this posting. Neurological degradation under stress, or fear response incompatible with combat readiness. He almost pitted the creature. Almost. The airlock cycled. Power restored across 14 decks in under 6 seconds. Skelver's sensor board bloomed with data, and for a moment his professional vocabulary failed him entirely. 847 targeting locks. Achieved in under 6 seconds of power restoration. That's not possible, the adjunct said. Skelver checked his chronometer against the decommission schedule. 347 days remaining. He made a note to requisition new coolant filters for the observation deck. The ship's jump drive capacitors are charging, said a voice from Tactical, and Skelver understood that his career had ended the moment those lights came on. I'll be honest with you. What Skelver saw that day changed what he thought he knew about dead things. The Dauntless had been a human warship once, before the Coalition's ancient war had reduced its crew to ash and its command codes to static. Skelver had studied the battle footage during his training cycles. Human ships burning, human colonies falling. The standard curriculum for any commander assigned to watch the remnants. He had never studied what happened after the burning stopped. Biological anomaly was the Coalition's term for Kale, the mechanic who had spent his life hiding human DNA behind a blast mask. Skelver had read the intelligence brief. Kale worked in a workshop on the outpost's lower ring. He had a partner named Varek, the old one, the brief called him, who carved wooden figures of earth animals during night shifts. A bear, a whale, something with too many legs that Kale never named. None of this belonged in a threat assessment. Yet here was Kale, crossing vacuum toward a ship that should not respond to him. His hands still trembling as the Dauntless bridge came alive around him. Holographic displays flickered. Historical footage surfaced. Coalition ships initiating fire on civilian transports. The ancient war, recorded from the human side, playing now for an audience of 1. The jump drive requires 17 simultaneous variables, Skelver's tactical officer reported, reading data that made no sense. 0 artificial navigation systems pass this threshold. The biological processor would need to maintain all 17 without collapse. Skelver watched Kale strap into the command chair. A mechanical crown descended from the ceiling. Interface needles entered the skull at precise angles. The tremor in Kale's hands intensified. Neurological cascade imminent, Skelver predicted, his SP-25 biology already preparing for the confirmation of superiority. The biological anomaly is exceeding safe parameters. The interface will reject incompatible neural architecture. The targeting locks held steady. 847 of them, each one a promise directed at Skelver's 400-ship fleet. And Kale's mouth moved, shaping words that no sensor could capture, no translation matrix could decode. Skelver's fleet outnumbered the Dauntless by a ratio of 400 to 1. He was still the one who was nervous. The containment formation tightened. Warships moved into interlocking positions, each captain waiting for Skelver's order to fire. He watched Kale through the magnified visual, strapped into the command chair, the mechanical crown pressing interface needles into his skull. The tremor had not stopped. If anything, it had worsened, a fine oscillation in the human's fingers that SP-25 biology classified as neurological cascade. Biological processor incompatible with ship architecture, Skelver said into the command channel, and the words felt like armor. The interface will reject him. The jump drive cannot charge without compatible neural calculation. His secondary respiratory system opened again on his chest cavity. He adjusted his respirator mask. The station's recycled air. Tactical broke the silence. Sir, the jump drive capacitors are at 94%. The targeting locks are holding steady, and the biological anomalies neural patterns are synchronizing. Skelver's dermal plates contracted so sharply they ached. The correction arrived not as data but as image. Kale's trembling hands, magnified now on every screen in Skelver's fleet, were not failing. They were calibrating. The Dauntless was learning his neural signature, mapping the 17 simultaneous variables that no artificial system could hold. The ship wasn't damaging the biological anomaly. It was recognizing him. For 100 ships, not one of them could follow where Kale was going. The realization hit Skelver like pressure change. The respirator adjustments in the observation deck, his biology had known. His species' involuntary threat preparation had recognized a predator his conscious mind refused to see. Every time he touched that mask, he had been preparing to fight something his training said didn't exist. Coalition troops began cutting through the Dauntless' outer airlock. Too late. Seconds remained. Point-to-point space fold, tactical whispered, and the words carried the weight of doctrine rewritten. 17 variables held in working memory. 0 artificial systems pass this threshold. The biological processor maintains all 17 without collapse. The Dauntless did not fight its way out. It simply folded space around itself and vanished. Every sensor on Skelver's 400 warships registered nothing. The containment formation held empty vacuum. Kale launched the escape shuttle as the Dauntless powered down around him, carrying every human archive in his skull into enemy-controlled space. Skelver's narration stopped. His command deck held the silence of 400 captains who had just watched a single human make their entire fleet obsolete. The non-functional emergency shuttle Skelver had certified 18 months ago was very functional now. It cut through coalition patrol lanes on a trajectory no artificial navigation system could calculate. Varric's cruiser, the old one who carved wooden bears from scrap, intercepted the signal. Colony coordinates transmitted in Aura's human-only cipher, unbreakable without neural architecture to decode it. Hyperdrive engaged. Skelver wrote his incident report in the quiet that followed. Under outcome, he left the field blank for 17 minutes. His fingers hovered over the keys. Outside his viewport, the Dauntless drifted dark again. Weapon ports cold. Every light extinguished except one. A single running light on the stern. Small. Red. The kind of light you leave on so something can find its way home. He typed, "Asset unrecoverable." The report filed automatically. Skelver sat in the dark of his command deck. His secondary respiratory system closed now. His species equivalent of a long exhale after something terrible becomes simply true. He did not understand what he had witnessed. He understood only that the coalition had spent 2 years watching a dead ship, and the ship had spent those same 2 years waiting for one particular hand to touch its door. Varric's wooden bear. Kale's unsteady fingers. The red light blinking against the void. Skelver reached for his respirator mask one more time. Then he stopped, his hand frozen in the gesture that had betrayed him, and let it fall to his side. The dauntless running light continued its slow pulse. Somewhere beyond Coalition space, a shuttle carried a civilization in a single skull toward coordinates that existed in no database but one.